Chicago Public Schools systemically destroyed the vocational programs in our city. There used to be 80 carpentry teachers in the city of Chicago. There's 2 or 3 today. There's 2 or 3 mechanics programs in the city of Chicago with 3 million people. We got all these cars. Who's going to fix them?
Can you believe it? That's right. I'm still here living inside this tent on top of this rooftop on the south side of Chicago, bringing to you the issues and awareness that you need to know about gun violence and other topics that are important to Chicago. I'm also raising as much money as possible to build a community center on this much needed block called O Block. It's called O Block because it's named after a young man named O.D. Perry who was shot and killed. The gangs took the O in his name and started calling it O Block. We decided we're going to keep the O, but we're going to change it to Opportunity Block. I want to thank Fox for giving me the opportunity every single day to bring you Rooftop Revelations, where I share with you my thoughts, viewpoints, and opinions on issues as it relates to Chicago and issues that impact our country. And every now and then I get to have a guest on our show. So today I'm grateful and thankful to have with us a guest, and I'm going to allow him at this time to, we're going to start by, if you can, just describe who you are and what your past role was on as CTU, Chicago's Teachers Union.
Thanks for having me, my brother. Pastor, I don't know, brother, pastor, father. You know, I get all those mixed up sometimes, but I appreciate you having me on your roof here, and I appreciate everything you're doing for this area of the city and uplifting all of us. And we need more people like you doing this and taking a stand. Doesn't matter what side you're on, but just take a stand. That's the thing I think we've lost in our city, in our country, that people are afraid to take stands because they're afraid of being attacked.
Yes.
My name is John Kugler. I'm a licensed educator through the state of Illinois. I'm licensed to teach vocational ed and CTE. In short, that's shop. I used to teach carpentry and drafting right down the street at High Park Career Academy. My last job was at the Chicago Teachers Union. I was a field representative, meaning I protected people's rights and contractual rights and enforced rules of the contract and enforced rules in the schools. I'll be open and transparent. I don't work at the Chicago Teachers Union anymore. It was an involuntary separation. We'll call it that nice language, okay? Is that fair?
That's fair.
How
long were you there?
I was there I came in with Karen Lewis actually in 2010, and July 1st, I was one of the first employees that she hired to come on to her crew when she got elected in 2010.
Wow. Mm-hmm. You know, so as we talk about Chicago Teachers Union, there's a lot of uproar on different issues, but I want to jump right in. I want to ask you this. From your standpoint, what is the biggest positive about the Chicago Teachers Union, and what is the biggest negative?
The biggest positive is it's a conglomerate of all different people, different sides of the city, different races, different ethnicities, different income levels, different generations, different education levels. And that's the great part of it. The problem is the people, if you have certain people running it and they abuse that power and that authority and they use it for personal or political gain, that's the problem. And I think that's one of the problems I have with my separation is I started seeing those issues that people were not focusing on individuals in the community, and they started focusing on politics. And politics is politics, as they come and go, but in education is something that's needs to be steady, it needs to be consistent, and education needs to be about the people in the community, not about what you believe in. It's about what people in the community need. That's my views on education.
Okay, all right. So as we talk about education and we talk about the Teachers Union, one of the things that I've been wondering and kind of really bothered about, how is it, for instance, that a school like in our neighborhood can have a 4% math proficiency and a 6% reading proficiency level and still be allowed to exist? How does that happen in a country like America, in a city like Chicago?
Because there's no checks and balances, and it's just like parents. When you have parents fighting and the kids know the parents are going to fight, then the kids create the fight. So then whatever the kid needs or wants to do is done, and then the kid gets left alone. So when you have opposing sides diametrically and they're fighting, who's taking care of our kids? So to answer your question of how does that happen, there's no accountability. There's no reliability. There's no consistencies. There's no checks and balances for our children of our city to get the education they deserve. I have a story when I used to teach at Hyde Park Career Academy, right down the street, 63rd and Stony Island. And I have some issues with standardized tests and certain educational philosophies and pedagogy. And that's my personal view. And we all do. That's why we live in America. That's what makes our country the best country in the world, right? Is that we can have our own views. But I'm a white guy teaching in an all-black school, and I have my conceptions of what people should know and people should learn. And it took me 2 weeks to figure out one of my students couldn't read. And I asked him a few times, can he read a passage for me and read what was written down? And then finally I addressed it. I said, you can't read, can you? And he was sad and he put his head down. And he goes, well, what are you going to do about it, Dr. Kugler? I said, well, you're 18 years old. You're in a carpentry class. I'm teaching you carpentry and how to survive when you get out of here in a few months. That's my job. My job isn't here to teach you to read. And the other part of the discussion I had with him, I said, how did you get here? How did you get from grammar school to be 18 and not know how to read? Well, where did that go wrong? And as we had our discussion, I said, listen, learn carpentry. I'll teach you the skill. And if you want to learn how to read, that's an easy thing. I mean, it's a little more difficult when you're older, but let's get you on the right foot. And let's get you the things that you need to survive first, because you're already 18, and then we can talk about reading. But in the end, that started me thinking where it went wrong, right? Yeah. How does an 18-year-old get to be in high school and not be able to read?
It's going really wrong. That's the reason why some people in Chicago, I've heard this, Chicago's teachers union be tagged Jobs Corps, because a lot of people feel like that the teachers union is more concerned about jobs for teachers and jobs for people in the union than they are concerned about the children, about the kids, about being able to read. How do you balance that? What do you think about that?
From a guy from the inside, I'm talking to the TV now. I don't know where you got that narrative, but you're not protecting people's jobs. There was over 1,000 to 2,000 people fired 12 years ago. Mostly were African Americans. You know how many of them got their jobs back? Barely any. There was just a lawsuit that they won for $12 million or $10 million. You know who got most of the money? A lawyer got the money that was connected to the union. She was the mother of somebody. So I'm sorry to say that, but what is said on the outside, and I'm from the inside, it isn't even about jobs. What is it? It's about power, politics, and rhetoric. And maybe some people say, well, unions protect bad teachers, there's no accountability. And I'm here to tell you is there's a lot of people who lose their jobs. And the union, what the union does is it manipulates those things and polarizes it for issues, whether it's...
would you call that corruption?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay,
corruption with a big C.
So how do we deal with the corruption of the Chicago's teachers union versus dealing with the children? Because it seems like to me all the kids are being left out. They're like a secondary issue. But what becomes primary is, like you said, the politics, the power, the corruption of the teachers union. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, I believe in democracy and I do believe in voice, right? And as members of the Chicago Teachers Union, they should realize that. And first of all, there's an election coming up May 20th. They should unelect them. That's the first step, right? In the second step, if there is corruption, which I'm good at, I put a few people in prison in my job, is we need to start looking at what they're doing with the money. If the money is for the union and for the union members, which is supposed to fix the union and have accountability and make teachers better, then why isn't that happening? Why isn't the money of the union dues helping the members be better teachers so they can better serve the communities we need? We have different communities in Chicago.
So do you feel like that's not happening?
Oh, 100% that's not happening. Oh, no. Most of the money that we've been looking into lately has been going towards politics. They've been diverting union dues for politics. I think even now there's just been something came out with Madigan. I think Madigan was we gave Madigan a bunch of money. Yeah. And I think I even seen Madigan in our offices one day. And I think it was, I don't know who it was, Jesse Shark or somebody, and Stacey Davis Gates were meeting with Madigan. I said, look, I'm going to be honest. I'm a leftist, all right? I know who
and I'm a rightist.
All right, so hey, left and right, there we go. We're home now, brother. But so think about this. So here I am. I'm a guy. I'm supposed to be revolutionary. I'm supposed to be for all of this stuff. And I walk into an office and I see Mike Madigan inside the union. Like, what's he doing here? We're supposed to be fighting him, and then he's drinking alcohol with dues money.
Yeah.
So it started an investment. I said, so that started me thinking. This is years ago. Like, wait, if we're saying we're this, why is that guy here? I mean, I believe in actions speak louder than words.
Right.
I can jump up and down and talk and yell and bluster and have a sign, but in the end, when I see what you do and who you hang with, that's what shows me who you are.
I want to ask you a question because you brought up a very interesting thing. I got in a Twitter argument. Well, not really an argument, but I raised a question about the very issue that you just said. How unions use money to fund politics. Explain that for people outside of Chicago and out, you know, they don't really understand the politics of Chicago. But how does the Chicago Teachers Union use funds to get involved in political situations?
My view is it's illegal.
Yeah.
My view is it's illegal. I don't think that should happen. And that should go through the process of political PACs. It should go through transparency and accountability through the government, whether it's a local government like Chicago, county government, state government, or federal government. They also should be accounted for. But what the union does, and especially Chicago Teachers Union, it says, we have a program. We want to institute change, say, in 3 wards. So they mask political contributions through work in the communities. And they pass through dues money through local organizations to do political work for them. So that's what they do. So the explanation that I got from the union when I filed multiple complaints about them using dues for politics is, we're a private organization. The union members elected us. We're in power now. We can do whatever we want. And I'll give you an example. I don't know if you remember. Remember there was a big uproar about the FU to the cops. There was a downtown rally.
I remember that.
First of all, bad police, there needs to be accountability. Just like anything, like teachers,
bad teachers, bad preachers, bad anything.
Yeah,
bad
there has to be
professions.
accountability.
Yeah.
There's no excuse there, right? We need to do right by each other, and we need to be. So when we came in our office and we had a staff meeting, I said, who did that? And then they deflected in a big staff meeting. And this was Jesse Sharkey talking to us at the time. We said, you shouldn't be doing that because it portrays the union of taking sides.
Yeah.
As teachers, I don't want to say we should be neutral, not when there's bad things happen, but we shouldn't manipulate children in their thoughts. I don't think that's right. And we said that puts the union in bad light. And the second thing is police are workers too.
Yeah.
They live in our communities. Their children go to our schools.
Absolutely.
They're part of the city. And this was his answer to me. He goes, I don't care what you guys say. We were elected and we can do whatever we want.
Wow.
So he said it in an open meeting to staff. And we were shocked. And when you have those kinds of leaders that believe they can do whatever they want, that are unaccountable to anybody that's even their constituency or even their close staff,
Right.
then you have a problem there, right? Then we need to have some changes. And if it doesn't go internally, then we have to do some external changes, right? I don't want to get into that too much here because that's a secret a little bit, all right?
Well, I was going to ask, how do we make those changes? How do we change things? If we want to move things toward what you're saying, toward transparency, accountability, more responsibility, and not having the teachers union to have so much power, unchecked power, how do we change that?
Well, I'm from the city. And I believe in block power, right? We need to change our city block by block. We need to organize. I'm an organizer.
Yeah.
I learned that from my grandfather. I learned that from my dad. So if I don't like something, I can throw a brick. I can throw a stone. I can get on the TV and yell and scream and get on Twitter and all that. But that doesn't change.
Right.
What I need to do is talk to my neighbors, talk to my brothers and sisters and say, look, this is wrong and let's do something about it. And you give people an option. Do you change or we're going to get rid of you? I think it's time to get rid of some people. It's time to get rid of the leadership of the Chicago Teachers Union. And once that changes, then we got to see the new leadership if they listen to the community. And if they listen to what our communities need. When there's schools like down the street, what is the reading level down the street, Pastor?
6%.
6%. This is in the city of Chicago in the year 2022. Kids are reading at a 6% reading level. I don't even think that's in a third world country, that kind of stuff. That's almost pure illiteracy here.
Yes.
You're talking about 94% of the children coming out of a school cannot read. That should not be happening in our country. So there's a reason that that's happening. Because there's a power dynamic that's thinking about power in themselves and they're being selfish.
Absolutely.
And then what we need to do is change that power dynamic and say that the power lies in the streets, in the blocks, and the people that we serve.
Yeah.
That's what we need to change. And we need to organize and we need to remove people from power that are like that. If they don't go voluntarily through elections, then we do other things, right? Then we prosecute, right? I have a friend of mine that says, then use the alphabet, FBIs and those kinds of people. I'm sorry to say that, but that's the truth.
Absolutely. Whatever it takes to keep people accountable. Yeah.
Right.
So if you're me, and you're part of this community and you wanted to make the community better, a better place, would you do what I'm doing or would you do something else?
I'm ready to be up here with you. I love this spot. If anybody on that TV, you want to see a cool spot, this is a cool spot right here. The only thing you're missing is a nice hot tub. That's it.
That's
this
right.
is cool.
That would be perfect, right?
Yeah, it'd be perfect, all right? But I'm telling you, this is what people need to do. That's it. We need to take a stand. You know, that's what we need to do.
So, first of all, I want to say thank you for being up here and having this discussion. There's so much that we could talk about. But one of the things is that I realize we can't save all the kids. We can't save everybody. We can try. We need to try. But for these real young kids, these 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds who haven't really gotten a chance yet, what is the best thing we can do educationally for them right now? Reading,
writing, and arithmetic. I'm not talking about going back to the 1950s. Absolutely not. Kids need to learn how to read, write, and do some basic math. The next thing is they need to know what they want to do. Do they want to go to college? Do they want to study? Do they want to get a job? Do they want to be a tradesperson? Do they want to go to the military? Whatever they need. Our children need to have the basic skills and they need to have opportunity and they need to explore that.
You brought something I was getting ready to stop, but I want to ask you one more question. You're in the trades, and I want to know, part of Project Hood and what we're doing, we're big vocational. We're all about teaching the trades. And one of the reasons why we do it is because the schools have basically taken trades out. Do you feel that's a true statement, first of all? And secondly, if it is a true statement, what should we do about the trades?
It's a true statement. It was done on purpose.
Elaborate.
Chicago Public Schools systemically destroyed the vocational programs in our city. There used to be 80 carpentry teachers in the city of Chicago. There's 2 or 3 today. There's 2 or 3 mechanics programs in the city of Chicago with 3 million people. We got all these cars. Who's going to fix them? So Chicago Public Schools destroyed them. I don't know, there's a privatization, whatever. That's not my business, right? The big politics is not money, all right?
Fact is that they destroyed them.
They destroyed them and they don't exist. Hyde Park Career Academy, where I used to teach, had 14 career programs. I don't think they have any left.
Wow.
That's where kids get the opportunity. What do we do as a community? We demand that they put those back. And you know what? We demand, and it takes 5 or 10 years. Our kids get older, and we forget about it. So you know what? Why don't we do it ourselves?
Exactly.
Why don't we teach kids how to cut some wood? Why don't we teach kids how to fix a car? Why don't we teach young people how to be fashion designers? Why don't we make clothes here in Chicago? Right? Why don't we make typewriters and computers? I was going to pick up your phone there, but why aren't we fixing phones?
Yeah.
Everybody has one of these.
Teaching kids.
Why aren't we teaching kids how to fix a phone? I'd take it to them right now. Practical skills, easy things that we can all work together with,
I think you're right. And I think you're right. If we wait on government, if we wait on the school system to do it, we're going to be waiting years. And if it even happens.
Me and you ain't going to be around no more, my
friend. So we have to do it now. That's what Project Hood is trying to do. We're trying to we're going to build this center so we can teach the trades, and hopefully you can stop by and help us show some kids some carpentry, and because that's what it's really all about. We got to sometimes put our differences aside and agree on the stuff that we do agree on, and then we can fight about the other stuff later. But there's enough commonality and enough stuff that we can agree on to help a lot of people. So I want to thank you for being on my show.
Thank you for having me here. I appreciate it. And everybody who's on TV land, you need to come up here. This is pretty cool.
I want to thank Eli Steele for always producing a great show. I want to thank Terrell for always being out in the weather and making sure that everything runs well and taping well. And a big shout out to Fox for continuing to allow me to have Rooftop Revelations, where I'm sharing with you thoughts, viewpoints, and opinions, even sometimes the ones that you disagree with. So, as always, I want to say God bless you, God bless America. And until tomorrow, another Rooftop Revelation. Peace.